Fellow Tenno, it has come to my attention that many of you do not fully understand what it means to play as or with Limbo. The Gentleman Frame is not a troll, nor is it a useless tool to use against the Gungnir corpus infested in sentience. In fact, my friends, Limbo is one of the most interesting frames in game if you are willing to understand and learn its mechanics. In this guide, I plan to show you what this gentleman is capable of, as well as show you how you can either master the ways of the Rift or understand the toolset if you are partnered up with one. Welcome to VGU's Limbo Warframe Guide. Let's start off going over Limbo's ability set first, starting off with Banish. You ever wanted a pesky enemy like a Gungnir Bombard to just go away and no longer deal damage to you and your allies? Then why not banish him to the Rift? Limbo's first ability allows him to send enemies into the Rift, dealing damage as well as placing them within their own little world for a set amount of time. Whilst in the Rift, the enemies will not be able to deal damage to those outside of it, but as a price, you won't be able to harm him either. This is unless you or any of your allies are in the Rift yourselves. If this ability is cast onto an ally, they become invulnerable to any incoming damage, but cannot harm anyone unless outside of the Rift. As an added bonus, however, allies will receive a regeneration effect on their energy so they can cast more abilities. Now at first glance, this can seem like a very annoying ability to use in a team environment. No one apart from Limbo may be able to get kills, allies may not be able to deal damage, and enemies will just waltz around wondering why their precious shots will do nothing. But this ability separates the boys from the men, and the girls from the ladies. So to fully utilize this ability, you must understand which targets to take down in which scenarios. For example, in an exterminate mission you can use this to banish high damage dealing enemies whilst dealing with the regular fodder. In defense and survival missions, you can single out high priority targets to take them out of the Rift whilst your teammates deal with the others. Lastly, you can use Banish in any mission whilst coordinating with allies on your team to put them into the Rift in order for them to take advantage of their energy pool and abilities. Nova Prime can still use Molecular Prime in the Rift to affect enemies, Ash and Ash Prime can still perform Blade Storm, and Loki and Loki Prime can still use Radiant Disarm, as well as other frames using other abilities. However, if you are accidentally put into the Rift by a Limbo, do not think you are useless and can't get out. Simply rolling whilst in the Rift removes the banish effect on you, which stops any accidental targets or prevents trolls from stopping your damage output. Next we have Rift Walk. Want to enter the Rift and receive all the benefits? Rift Walk allows just that. You gain all the pluses allies would get in the Rift, and that's about it. As stated when talking about Banish, Rift Walk is used in conjunction with your other powers to help single out or devastate targets in the Rift. Also, Rift Walk can be used to make you immune to damage whilst you revive fallen allies. Go into Rift Walk to maintain a high amount of energy and use your other abilities alongside this to deal some truly devastating damage to your opponents. Next we'll talk about Rift Surge, and although putting enemies into the Rift is great, destroying them is so much better. And Rift Surge helps you accomplish this by increasing the amount of damage you deal whilst inside the Rift. This includes individual targets and anyone inside Cataclysm. This should be on at all times when dealing with any kinds of threats in the Rift, as the damage output is nothing short of brilliant. Sadly, this damage increase does not affect allies, but this does leave you more capable of single-handedly taking down big threats that are a pain for the entire team. And lastly, we have Cataclysm, the big or small bubble that can deal the pain or help defend. Cataclysm causes Limbo to summon a bubble that puts any and all enemies and allies inside the Rift for as long as it stands. The size of a bubble decreases as the duration of the ability comes closer to its end. You can also deactivate Cataclysm at any time to allow yourself and allies to pick up ammunition and items from the defeated foes. This is where your Limbo game steps up. Depending on how you have built the Gentleman, this can either be a great addition or a great alternative to Frost or Frost Prime's Snow Globe, or it can be a quick ability that can dish out immediate damage to enemies in a large radius. After Banner's changes and fixes, however, the earlier build is definitely the superior, as it will also allow you to keep you and your opponents in the Rift for longer, as well as take full advantage of Rift Surge. So those are the basics out of the way, but what if you're already catered to Limbo's skill set, and you just want to know, how do I make this gentleman the best? Well, let's talk builds. What you'll see on screen now is my build for Limbo, which gets me through any situation the game has to offer, including effectiveness in the new daily sorties. He currently has 2 Former on him, but he will be in need of bumping up to 3 once all primed mods are fully ranked up and implemented. And now allow me to go over the mods and why they are a part of this build. Starting off with Energy Siphon, and you can trade this out with Corrosive Projection if your team is all set up for armor removal. Combined with going in and out of a rift, this simply helps with keeping your energy as high as possible. Power Drift is one of the new mods available from the Moon, and the Power Strength edition helps with dealing more damage in the later levels, and the knockdown resistance is a nice bonus as Limbo is not that strong. Continuity or Prime Continuity is a must-have. You will need this in order to keep your abilities going for as long as possible. Duration affects everything on this Warframe, so it is essential to buff it up. Intensify. So dealing more damage in the Rift Surge and dealing the initial damage to enemies with Banish and Cataclysm is a big plus. At later levels, this won't instantly kill anyone, but it helps with ammo conservation. Then we have Streamline. As you are going to use your abilities a lot, you need to pull up your efficiency. Max out Streamline, and that will help you reduce the mana costs of your powers and help the Rift regen your mana back faster. Now, the only augment mod that I use on Limbo is Rift Torrent. This increases the amount of damage you deal to enemies in the Rift by 20% for each enemy in the Rift. In simpler terms, this plus Cataclysm equals damage. That is maths I can live with. Flow and Prime Flow. The standard flow mod will be replaced with a prime counterpart in time, but this is necessary as you will be casting abilities a lot. A large pool is a happy pool. Natural Talent. Although most of your abilities don't have much of a charge time, Cataclysm does. If you're trying to get the bubble out when swarmed by infested, chances are you're going to die before the ability triggers. Put this on to guarantee that you can get out Cataclysm when needed, as well as speed up going in and out of a rift along with enemies. Narrow-minded at rank 8. I would not take this mod any higher than rank 8 as the efficiency of it starts to affect Limbo. With this, however, the duration of your Warframe will be increased dramatically with a reduction to range, which is actually a good thing. Cataclysm is better as a small, controlled, long-lasting bubble, which can defend locations and help bring energy to allies. If the bubble is too big, it becomes troublesome against ranged targets. As a small bubble, it is handy for those who are running away, as well as a good size to blow up anyone that is inside with an area of effect weapon. And finally, Vitality. Limbo naturally has higher health than shields. You will be staying in the Rift a lot with this build, but in case you pop out of it, you do have a good health pool to fall back on. Now let's talk weapons and tactics. As a Limbo, you are most of the time going to be acting as a support Warframe, filling the gaps that the team needs, as well as helping those that get shot down by jumping into Rift Walk. With this, you are going to need weapons that either benefit your energy usage or are great crowd clearers. I heavily suggest running with the Tonkor, Penta, or Quanta for AoE weaponry, as these can deal insane damage to enemies, and you can create some amazing strategies for yourself and the team. For example, bring up a Cataclysm on a group of enemies, put yourself into Rift Walk, activate Rift Surge, and shoot a Tonkor shell into the Cataclysm from outside. You will isolate the enemies, most likely kill all of them, and be able to damage them without having to go into the Cataclysm itself. You can also use this when defending an objective to get rid of swarming infested units. Look forward to the numbers you will see pop up with your crazy amounts of damage. As for sidearms, I would strongly recommend the Cyanoid Gamma Core from following Cephalon Suda's Syndicate. Great damage, precision aiming, and upon triggering the Syndicate effect, can deal blast damage and give you 100 energy. So not only will this come in handy when taking out enemies both in and out of a rift, but it can also assist with energy efficiency. all in all, a must-have for Limbo's secondary slot. Melee, however, is difficult for Limbo. As he's not the strongest in the game, it is best to keep him at range rather than getting his hands dirty. So it's best to give him a melee weapon you want ranking up for the most part. But, if you are after a good melee option with Limbo, I would suggest something with great finisher damage. The reason for this is when you cast Banish on an enemy, they are instantly knocked down. In this state, they are very easily succumb to finisher attacks, which, with Rift Surge, could instantly kill them. So keep this in mind and take in weapons like the Mios or the Dual Ichor for something worth punching with. You will notice with this build and style of play that Limbo is not the best frame when it comes into exterminate, capture and sabotage style missions. However, that does not mean he cannot be used in these scenarios. It is as simple as using your toolset to your advantage to take out any enemies that come your way. Also, when in a rescue mission, you can hack into the door terminals whilst in Rift, and once you have found the target, you can banish them so that they cannot be damaged. When it comes to spy missions, Limbo is the best when dealing with Corpus runs, as he cannot trip the alarms for laser gates. He can only be detected by enemy patrols and cameras, that can be easily taken out with Banish and a good stabbing. With all of this at your disposal, you can now go into the solar system and give out a helping hand to your fellow Tenno. Just remember that to be a gentleman, you must be a team player. Do not use these powers to troll your teammates, but instead use them to assist the team in completing missions faster and more efficiently. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed this guide to playing Limbo in Warframe. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and as well as that, if you want to see more Warframe guides like this in the future, let us know what you would like to see next. Until next time guys, I'll be seeing you on the other side.